A while ago, I did an episode on blue fragrances, what they are and why they dominate the market, and why people associate them with cleanliness, freshness, and versatility. But today we're going in the opposite direction. Today we're talking about red fragrances. Not just fragrances in red bottles, not just fragrances marketed as red, but fragrances that psychologically, emotionally, and structurally feel red. Because in perfumery, fragrance has color. Not literal color, emotional color, atmosphere, temperature, and mood. And once you understand that concept, you start understanding fragrance on a whole different level. So typically, when people describe a fragrance as red, they're usually describing warmth, density, sweetness, even a little bit of spice. Sometimes emotional intensity. Red fragrances tend to smell warm, deep, and rich, opposed to fresh, airy, and transparent. Intimate instead of distant. A blue fragrance tends to project outward, while a red fragrance tends to pull inward. And that difference tends to change the emotional experience of wearing it. One of the biggest concepts in perfumery is temperature association. Some notes smell cold, and some notes smell warm, even though technically fragrance has no temperature. Citrus, aquatic notes, mint, aldehydes, and oceanic accords are usually described as smelling cool. That's why they usually get associated with colors like blue, white, silver, or ice-like imagery. But red fragrances are built around warmth. Notes like cinnamon, tobacco, amber, resin, tonka bean, cherry clove, and nutmeg, boozy accords, and warm woods. These notes create what perfumers call thermal warmth. No actual heat, just the illusion of heat. And our brains naturally associate that sensation with the color red. Because fragrance is deeply psychological. Our brain is constantly building visual association with scent. Warm spices tend to remind people of things like fire in autumn, heat, delicious desserts, wood, smoke, and candlelight. All things commonly associated with red, orange, or ambery tones. That's why usually fragrances that share a sweetness, one might be a little smooth and creamy, while the other smells dark and seductive. Structure, texture, and atmosphere completely matters. Not all sweetness smells like the same color. Blue sweetness typically comes from things like ambroxan, fresh fruits, bubblegummy vibes, clean musk, and shower gel accords. That type of sweetness feels energetic and bright. Red sweetness usually comes from vanilla, cinnamon, tonka, cherry, tobacco, and amber. That sweetness feels heavier, thicker, warmer, and a bit more emotional. But smell completely different, emotionally. Red fragrances tend to prioritize feeling over freshness. That's why so many of them tend to become signature scents. People remember them, they attach memories to them. A lot of date night scents tend to fall into this category because warm fragrances tend to create intimacy. Naturally, warm air tends to stay closer to the skin. And most red fragrances tend to create a scent bubble, more so than a big loud projection. It definitely feels more personal. If you start exploring red fragrances, you'll start to notice similar things in their DNAs. Vanilla and spice, amber and woods, cherry and booziness, tobacco and sweetness, of course, cinnamon and tonka. These combinations definitely create density and emotional warmth. And perfumers intentionally create these combinations because they understand that they create emotions in people. And that's why fragrance is art. It's not just ingredients, it's emotional engineering. Modern perfumery has definitely started to lean more into red fragrances as of late, especially with the rise of gourmand fragrances. People don't want to just smell clean anymore. They want texture, they want density, they want the emotion. And honestly, it probably goes without being said that a lot of people are also emotionally exhausted. Fresh fragrances tend to smell almost too clean or too perfect, where red fragrances tend to smell more human. So the next time you smell a fragrance and you think, oh wow, that's warm and comforting and spicy and sexy, your brain is most likely assigning the color red to that fragrance experience. Once you start recognizing fragrance by emotional color instead of just notes, then you start understanding perfumery at a much deeper level. And that's why it's so important to experience all that fragrance has to offer by building up your fragrance wardrobe and sampling new scents. So definitely check out Fragrance Decant Boutique, where you can try before you buy and really build up your fragrance wardrobe, because we have some amazing spring and summer fragrances for you guys to try, even some amazing red ones for those intimate evenings. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Fragrant Eric. I love you all. Always look good, feel good, and smell good, and consider your mind decanted.